The meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency Board of Directors. I will say that we conduct this meeting in compliance with Nebraska statutes of the Open Meeting Act and the Open. We have a quorum list. We're good. Okay. Agenda item A is roll calls. Liz.
Supervisor Scott Bell. Commissioner Roger Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Rusty Height.
Here.
Mayor Doug Kindig.
Here.
Commissioner David Klug. Councilmember Don Rowe. Mayor Gene Stothert. And Mayor Angie Lundquist.
Item B is the. If I could have a motion to. Liz.
Garcia.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Klug. Rowe.
Yes.
Lundquist.
Yes.
Kindig.
Yes. Item C is the minutes of the February 27, 25 meeting. If I could have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second. Rowe.
Liz.
Garcia.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Lundquist.
Yes.
Kindig.
Yes. Agenda item D is our agency reports.
Sure. Well, welcome to our March meeting. A couple of updates just here at the top because I submitted my deck before this meeting this morning. But we had a meeting of the Tri-County Long-Term Recovery Group for Nebraska County, so kind of Washington County, Douglas County, Sarpy County, among kind of the cross-sectoral partners that are involved in the response to the April 26th, the Arbor Day tornadoes last year, and just really kind of all of the partnership there. And I think, in that coordination, kind of broke out into focus groups and talked about some of the issues. And I think many of them are going to be things that MAPA can continue to contribute on, but they even bring some resources there, particularly on some of the infrastructure and transportation coordination needs and interests, what with both our role in terms of being kind of a conduit to some of those public works officials and getting their input into these processes, but then also on the other side with working with the transit committee, people with vehicles, organizations, and an opportunity to kind of be focusing piece there. So very interesting, timely. I would have added it to my deck and I got from there at noon today. So a number of things, if you're following the news, you may have seen a number of items about MAPA recently. One being our Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, sending out those projects for selections has been covered regionally in a number of different newspapers, and would encourage you and any people that are interested in that to take a look at that, provide your input on those projects. We offer an opportunity to actually comment on each individual project, and that then gets taken through our committees as well for that kind of final prioritization, which you'll see in May and June. We also had a number of things covered in terms of our traffic safety planning and reporting. So Safe Streets for All, we had community workshops and also some really kind of deep dives into crash trends in the region, what local officials are doing to address those things, what we hear from the states and other things like that. In addition to the Council Bluffs planning and environmental linkages study and kind of where that project is, vision for that overall. And so those things are some of the top line levels. We also in March had a Council of Officials event down at the Mattress Factory. We had the speakers virtually from Accelerator for America, which is a national nonprofit that looks at really local government leadership in infrastructure investment and in economic development. And we asked them really just for an update on the federal status of things. So really looking at some of the core programs that MAPA and our members tap into, whether those are the federal transportation programs, whether they're economic development related programs, USDA rural development dollars, and really just kind of a broad range of those things. And it was an opportunity for some of our members and partners to actually get up and actually ask questions of these national experts. But I think it was a really interesting event. If you weren't able to attend, you do have the deck, kind of how they walked through some of the key decisions. This was 2 days before the continuing resolution vote that ultimately averted the government shutdown, but also kind of a playbook almost for the rest of the year, where some of these key decisions are going to come, transportation reauthorization next year, and really hopefully a valuable resource, something that we're likely to do again. Just recognizing a couple of projects here. One, the WeStep project, the Western Sarpy County Transportation Enhancement Program, is a grant that we awarded originally to the city of Gretna, but was selected by the EPA Nebraska as a Planning Excellence Award. And so it was a great opportunity. You see Jim there in the photo. and our partners at the local level accepting that award out in Kearney earlier this month. But this is a regional project looking really at kind of the long-term growth of Southwest County, how we match the infrastructure to that, and then also really kind of providing some of the systemic safety improvements as part of the plan. And so really very forward-looking plan, and really kudos to Jim and Court and Carlos and everybody pulled that together. That plan's been going on for a while. It's been a really great resource for us, and actually been a tremendous success story, I think, of the mini grant program. A couple of just updates. I've talked about these before, but they're getting underway now. So the city of Alvo received a roadway resurfacing CDBG grant. MAPA will be administering that, so that'll actually be kind of the main street through town and addressing some infrastructure needs there. In the city of Minden as well. So Minden received a CDBG block grant about a month ago, and we've begun the work of kind of the procurements and other things to kind of set that project up. Very short timeline. There were disaster recovery funds on the Minden side of things, and so we're moving quickly. But those 6 units will be built by Habitat for Humanity of Council Bluffs, and really going to help build back some of the housing stuff that was damaged and destroyed really in the Arbor Day tornado last year. So Safe Streets for All, I touched on this in kind of that news update, but we had a number of workshops earlier this month, gathered input from partners around the region, and we had a public meeting that was open through March 24th, so earlier this week. Really got, I think, a lot of feedback and affirmation from partners that were involved about the strategies included in our plan. So in addition to just a list of projects and corridors where we want to make sure that we're focused on for safety, it's also got a number of recommendations about ways that MAPA could fit into policy conversations, both at the local level and at the state level, and also toolkits and resources for thinking about quick build projects and other strategies that we identify in the plan. So it's really coming together, and again, kudos to that transportation team, Carlos, Court, Jim, Lindsay, everybody who's been leading all of that outreach effort. Rachel, I know, has been playing a big role in that as well. And really a great project, and another one of these things that was unlocked by some of the discretionary funds that we received through bipartisan infrastructure. I talked about this kind of as upfront last month. We had 2 elected and appointed officials training, one here in this room for Nebraska. We had 23 people register and 1 for learning about the Open Meetings Acts and running effective meetings, and people from village boards, to park boards, to city administrators attended, really just to kind of give us kind of a grounding in why we have open meetings, what those rules are, and really not just how to have that kind of compliance focus, but also how to use those to achieve the goals we have as an elected appointed official. The Iowa one was rescheduled twice. We hit both days of really severe weather here in Southwest Iowa. And we ended up moving it to virtual to accommodate the speaker from Iowa State Extension, and we had 7 people registered for that. That's something that we're looking at doing again to make sure that we capture anybody who's interested. But I think this is a great model, and really kudos to Graham, really, who put together the syllabus and connected with the folks at the Extension offices who helped us deliver this. It's been a great resource for our meetings. And that is it for my update.
Any questions, Mike? At this time, if anyone in the public is, did we get a request from anyone? Okay, thank you. Agenda item F is the consent agenda. I can take all of these at once, unless you remember which is to remove one. Item 1 is the finance. The final contracting $40,000 to the city of Council Bluffs. And item 3 is travel, the Iowa Council of Government's staff retreat, that be 3 staff members, and our annual conference, which is 2 staff members and board members. Have any of the board requested to go to that yet?
No.
Okay. So there's no meaning that you have not been to a NARC conference. Sometimes I feel bad that I can't go to that I've been to. There's smaller conferences, you actually get to have with the majority of the people that are there, towards some conferences I've gone to. None of the topics seem to pertain really to this stuff. So the NARC conference is definitely it's a little more intimate. Mm-hmm. So could I have a motion to approve, unless you'd like to pull any of those items? Any further questions or discussion?
Pike.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Kendig.
Yes. Item G is old business. Item 1 is resolution for 2025-16 TIP program. Item 5.
So very, basically just moving some funding, program in this year's TIP projects, where the funding is going to. Some of the FY23 and FY24 funding that we planned on obligating it last year, weren't able to make it happen this year. We're working with the state to get this purchase. That's the purpose of the amendment, just bringing this year's TIP. Today.
Questions before? Motion to approve.
Second.
Liz?
Garcia. Pike.
Yes.
Rowe. Winquist. Kendick.
Yes. Under new business, item 1 is new contracts and agreements. Item A is PR engineering on professionals task order agreement. Okay, thank you.
That's all we need. Yeah, this is continuation work for our travel demand model, which is public works, private development. Look to understand what is going to happen in the future in terms of where travel is going to occur. So in this process, we are in towards the final phases. These are the calibrations, the land use allocations, et cetera, et cetera. That is the work that our task order agreement is to be done before the end of the summer, I believe. And then our model 5, this will be an update to the 2018 model. And we will have a base year of 2022. A lot of projects were asking for new relevant data in this one. Favorable approval of this contract for $42,000 and
Questions or discussion for Carlos?
Second.
Liz?
Garcia. Pike.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Winquist. Yes. Kendick.
Yes. Item 2 is 2026 program.
Do you have the slides for this? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Okay, so this is our draft unified planning work program, and this serves as a budget for the transportation planning funding that we get from our state DOT partners, and really kind of serves as the basis by which we those were basis by which those funds are made available to us on an annual basis. And so these are the metropolitan planning funds. They're funds that flow through the Federal Transit Administration called 5305, really looking at kind of managing the transportation planning process for the urbanized area of Omaha County Plus Metro. So those planning funds, they break down, out of the slices of the pie there, about 92% of those funds come from NDOT, 8% come from Iowa DOT on an annual basis. That's been relatively stable over time. This work program is due to our federal partners on April 1st each year, going through kind of the budget calendar like we've done in the last several meetings. April 1 is ahead of our agency preliminary budget, but it is kind of this timeline that's required externally of us to really kind of give a statement of work at the draft level, which is defined for the final budget that comes back to you. So with that, I'll go through a little bit of what is in here. You've got the budget table in front of you. It was in the packet for the board meeting as well. And I'll just walk through a little bit of what you can see in here. So in total, there's about $4.6 million of total federal funding for our transportation planning activities. $2.6 million of that is new funding for FY26. This is mostly our targets for those two programs, metropolitan planning and for the 5305 funding from FDA. There's $2.2 million in carryover funds. Those are funds that either were not used kind of from our last planning agreement annually, or they were projects that we anticipated this year but weren't able to execute on, and those projects slide into this calendar fiscal year as well. $1.5 million in matching funds, and I've broken down kind of the source here. One thing that MAPA does, if you follow our budget, we use a large amount of in-kind match. So those are payments that are made by other agencies or entities. So we may participate in the federal share of a project. They say they have $10,000 worth of local planning activities that support our transportation planning process. We will reimburse $7,000 of that, and that 30% is actually something we're able to catch. The 297 is matched from partners and their contributions for things like Heartland 2050 mini grants or other planning studies that MAPA is actually contract holder on. Those funds come to MAPA. MAPA executes that contract on behalf of the partner. $195,000 of MAPA cash match, dues, tip fees, or cash reserves in some instances. And then the NIROC aerial photography project. So this is a source of third-party match, again, something that flows through MAPA by our local partners, but because it touches so much of our transportation planning process, we're able to capture that as a match for our overall budget. And so within that, then the total UPWP budget that you kind of follow to the bottom line is $6.1 million. You see kind of the breakdown there between the direct labor, some of those additive costs, fringe and indirect costs, and then a large portion of that $3.7 million is actually passed through either as contracts or sub-recipients. And so then it's broken down into kind of 4 of what we call these work elements. These are what we actually report on a quarterly basis to our federal and state partners, kind of our progress towards the goals within those. We've condensed these here to really the minimum number, which is 4. And so we have MPO management and administration. So that's a lot of what Carlos does in terms of leading the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, transportation staff, our compliance things around Title VI and other initiatives, in addition to the actual development of the budget and implementation of the work program. We have regional transportation planning, which is really a catch-all for our long and short-range planning. A lot of what we do at MAPA around performance measurement also captured in that. 230 is the TIP and local projects. MAPA's support and implementation of efforts really around not just the maintenance and selection of projects through the Transportation Improvement Program, but our partnership and stewardship of really kind of making sure that those projects find their way through the process effectively. A lot of what we coordinate through TTAC and what courts really working on a day-to-day basis is that partnership with the locals. And then complete streets. This was a new category of funding flexibility under the bipartisan infrastructure law, where activities that meet the specific requirements of complete streets planning don't require that 20% match. And so harmonizing that and identifying that on a line item basis, we actually don't need to match those funds as 100% reimbursable to us as well. And a large portion of our work program on an annual basis at that threshold, and with the flexibility provided by FTA and FHWA, will take care of that. So here on the table, you see this MAPA activity section. We call that, kind of in our parlance, above the line. These are the internal MAPA staff activities, the staff time, direct costs, and kind of that breakdown of direct labor and additive costs, really for MAPA's kind of core work and the staff that we have. You see a total budget there of $2.3 million. And again, because of those kinds of ways that we're able to leverage match that comes below the line, it's a 95% federal share of those activities. So below the line, this is hard to read, but you have it in front of you as well. But there's a number of different contracts and subrecipients that we anticipate for the year ahead. A number of these are regional planning activities, so that covers things like the travel demand model work that Carlos highlighted in that task order agreement, things like our regional freight plan, which was awarded competitively by this board and our transportation committees for us to take on as a planning study. And then also, in addition to that, are some of our consultant contracts, other things that we're working on a regional basis as well. We have a number of pass-through agreements with county GIS departments and Metro Transit to do those activities that align with our regional planning process. And then a number of these Heartland 2050 mini grants awards made by our project selection committee and by this board for planning studies that MAPA leads really on behalf of our members. It kind of takes that administrative burden off of them and allows them to have a project that's aligned with our long-term transportation goals. So again, kind of back to that initial slide, that $3.7 million is overmatched. So you see here, there's $2.3 million of federal share and $1.3 million, kind of a 2/3, 1/3 split there in terms of the federal share. So what we have within the MAPA budget is kind of larger below the line contracts and recipient activities, actually greatly subsidizing what we do above the line for our MAPA staff time. So then as an overview to the budget, the work program will be submitted here to the federal partners by April 1. The draft line item program and funds budgets will actually be reviewed by the Finance Committee. That will provide agency-wide view on our activities. This will be included within that and will be further refined for you by that. And then the final budget documents will be approved in May, and they're due again to our federal partners on June 1. And so with your approval today, we would pass this on to our state and federal partners. And I would just note, I put the 25% federal share here. It's a 20% minimum for budget of many of these programs. So Carlos, I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to cover.
The only caveat right now is we also the two programs, two contracts that we're waiting for to receive discretionary awards, but we have not initiated our program agreements. We have not heard back from our federal partners. Those two contracts will constitute about $4 million additional dollars under the contract. And so we hope that the draft with more information. If not, it will remain in unknown.
Do you want to talk about the timing of that, Carlos, just in terms of even if we receive notice today, when those might actually?
Yeah. So usually for federal awards, it takes 6 to get to a program agreement. Usually run back and forth budgets and everything that the federal resources need. So we're really getting to earnest until around this time next year. We don't anticipate happening in terms of a project. It's just back at administrative work to get us to a contract.
Questions for Carlos? If not, then approval.
Motion.
Garcia, Pike, Rowe, Winquist, Kindig.
Yes. You're here just in time for executive session. It's all right. Now, next on the agenda is an executive. So we can discuss our performance. I would ask please leave the room, and the rest of you can happily go back to work because we don't have really any information after that.
found those, not me. I usually find them after the fact.
I will call the meeting back in. Next agenda, and then with the executive director's compensation. And you said it into record, Christina.
Just a vote come out of executive session.
Oh, sorry. Give motion to come out of executive session.
So. Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Morrison, yes. Walsh,
Yes.
Winquist, yes. Kendig.
Yes. Now I'll move on to the executive director's compensation. Did you say that that motion needs to include the increase?
The amount, as well as language regarding the cost of living.
If I could have a motion, which would include my salary being set at $150,000, retro January 20, and June, you also get the standard 2.7% cost of living. This if you really did,
The board would take action in June. So, the board isn't taking action at this time on any cost of living adjustment. Motion typically just says director either should or should not.
Well, I think that's, so Nick, how we address it, but 8% plus the cost of living cumulatively would equal.
5%, that is, confused. The way the motion reads right now, you can still get the 2.7 on top of the 150 June. So that we get a motion, we can discuss it.
For discussion. Second.
So we can open it up for any discussion on that.
So, and that is the old motion. Just so everybody knows what we're voting on, that's not.
So your current motion is that Mike's salary will be set at 150 retro to January 20th. And then he would receive 2.7 given out.
So, sorry, just the math that what we do now instead would be, we get 146,066 right now. And with retro to January cost.
That's the way.
And the cost of living rate.
Yeah.
What was that?
146,056.
Thanks for doing that.
You
We always have them in the meeting. I'm glad Matt caught that. So the motion would be that we set that salary. Matt, do that. My salary would be set at 146.056, retro to January 20th, and these 2 points come June 1st.
So is that a motion? Motion.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
First,
Yeah.
is there a motion to that language? Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Liz, did we confuse you?
I think
Okay. Amend the motion to do that. Go ahead and take roll call, please.
Rowe, Morrison, yes. Walsh,
Yes.
Winquist,
Yes. With that, further things to do.
we have to also take, so that was a vote to amend the motion, and then do you have to take the vote on the Just the other three records. So that was good. And then
Okay, so now we need to take a motion.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just so- Second.
Liz?
so Walsh, right? Do it reverse.
Yeah.
All right, Garcia, Height, No, Morrison, Walsh,
Yes.
West, and Day.
Yes. I'm so sorry that hung around witnessed that there. Usually we got it together and stuff, you know, so. Okay, with that, is there any? Not. This meeting adjourned, my opening day, so you guys know where I'm at. So thank you and thanks for your time.
Thank you.